stuff you're talking about is that anarchism wasn't just this like popular idea that people in their lofts talked about. It was the work like a lot of like hundreds of thousands or millions of workers were in these anarchist unions, and they joined these unions because their tactics were effective. They weren't just trying to elect Socialist Party candidates. They were having general strikes, striking with other unions that were on strike, fighting the scabs and the Pinkertons and the police, rioting when one of their people was killed. This was going on for decades, and it made anarchism and also socialism in other places. There's, revolutionary syndicalism in general was like at the heart of the workers' movement, and this like tension between the working class and the capitalist class, this hostility towards capitalism, was like reaching this boiling point, moving towards World War I. And then World War I kind of like makes it, people fall into line with like their own nation or empire or whatever, so it kind of sets things back. But then World War I is so bad that things like really heat up again at the end, and that's when you get the Russian Revolution. And the Russian Revolution starts to spread throughout Europe and also in other places as well, in Latin America, to a lesser extent. There's this revolutionary wave. And in order to respond to that, fascism is basically invented by taking the principle of revolutionary anarchism, revolutionary socialism, which is organizing the masses, and making these fascist paramilitaries. And so that's the most clear. It happens everywhere, with the Freikorps in Germany, with these like patriotic hooligan bands in Argentina. Pogroms, was an early version of this, and Action Française in France. But it's the most clear with Mussolini, who comes out of the socialist movement. So he understands the power of organizing the masses. He organizes these black shirts in Italy, relying more on like a petty bourgeois, lower middle class base. And so he has these, bands of people who are breaking strikes, raiding factories that are occupied. This is in like 1920, 1921, when the revolutionary wave in Italy is starting to die down and the left starts fragmenting. And that's kind of when anti-fascism is invented as one possible way out of this, like, the fracturing of revolution and the rise of fascism. And the way the left responds to this is kind of instructive. You've got the Social Democratic Party, who's part of the Second International, who's counter-revolutionary. They're against the revolution that happened in Russia, siding with the state, trying to stabilize the liberal democratic state. And then you have the Communist Party of Italy, trying to push towards revolution in like the Marxist-Leninist fashion. But within that party, you also have a split between Gramsci and Bordiga. And I go into more detail about this in the article. But essentially, like, caught in between is this group called the Arditi del Popolo, who are largely these World War I veterans of different tendencies, but they're led by anarchists. And they just want to fight fascism. But their political goals are very unclear. Like, they're not necessarily explicitly revolutionary because it is so multi-tendency. And so as a result, the communists don't really trust them. The socialists just want to repress them because they're lawless hooligans. And so in the end, they don't have any institutional support. And one way to read that is, well, everybody should have embraced them and they should have gone to war with Mussolini and beat the fascists, and then maybe there could have been a revolution. But another way to read it is there needed to be a political solution to the problem of fascism. It couldn't just be, you can't just defeat them militarily or beat them all up, because it's a more systematic problem than that. It's open to interpretation. But that's basically where this conflict between Antifa and fascism really begins, as we understand today, and both sides have changed forms in a number of ways.